You're now listening to Sound Talent Media. Check out more shows at soundtalentmedia.com.
Hello, good people, and welcome back to another phone recording of the intro, because I'm in a bit of a hurry. I just got back from Mount St. Helens here in the beautiful Pacific Northwest for a little day with the family before I fly out to Chicago. Yeah, I'm going to be at the Fretboard Summit, so if you're going to be there, please do say hi. You'll see a cubic-shaped, confused-looking man walking around. That'll be me. Come up and say hi. I'd love to chat with you. That would be awesome. Fretboard Summit is something that my friend Jason Verlinde over at the Fretboard Journal puts on. I hear it's an incredible event. A lot of the Stringjoy guys have been, and I have not yet. So I'm really looking forward to hanging out, and I'm also really looking forward to my first true Chicago experience. So, yeah. If you see me in the city, say hi. I'm going to be at a lot of guitar stores. I'm going to be at the Fretboard Summit, obviously, and generally wandering around eating food. So, yeah. Okay, enough of that. Let's get into this week's episode. This week, I am talking to Randy King of King Electric Guitars. This dude's been building guitars for some of my very favorite artists. We talk extensively about it on this episode, and that is how I found out about his work, and I wanted to share it with all of you. So, without further ado, let's get into this episode with Randy King. Here we go. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Tone Mob Podcast, the show about guitar stuff, occasionally, sometimes. I'm your host, Blake Weiland, and with me today, I have Randy King of King Electric Guitars. What is going on?
Nothing much. Just stepped in my shop, getting ready for my shop part of the day, and was excited to jump on here with you. So glad to. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited to get to know more about you and the company and the stuff that you do. As I mentioned in the DM conversation, I became familiar with your work through Chuck Ragan, who I'm a massive fan of, and I hope to get on this podcast at some point. And then I saw some other folks that I also like had some of your guitars, and I was like, this seems like a fella I probably need to talk to.
I appreciate that. I am also a giant fan of Chuck Ragan, and in 2022, when I started my company, I was trying to come up with the big fish, as I call them. And it's funny when you think about Chuck, because he loves fishing, so the big fish is kind of appropriate. But I was thinking of who was the person who really inspired me, who really, I really looked up to and was a huge musical influence, and who would that be? And Hot Water Music just really came to mind. They were the band. I moved here in 96 from South Georgia. I got out of the Air Force, and I was a metal, grunge, hair metal kind of dude. And I moved up here and started living around a bunch of guys that were into punk and hardcore and that kind of stuff, and they introduced me to all this. So I've been a fan since 96, and so I decided that's where I was going, and said I was going to do it, and sat on it, and then the Christmas of 23, my wife said, "Hey, here's your present," and she gave it to me, and it was Hot Water Music tickets. And I was like, "Oh man, I haven't seen them in forever. Thank you." She goes, "No, you need to pay more attention." And it was a meet and greet, and I was like, "Oh, I understand." So that next day, I came in here and started working on that guitar. So, and I actually kind of designed that guitar for Chuck. It's one of my models that I just did some tweaking on, so now I'm making it as well.
That's so cool, man. Yeah, it's funny how, for me, there was like these weird turning points with like doing the show. I remember very distinctly like the first time, because I started out talking to builders. That was the main thing. I'm going to talk to folks like yourself and pedal builders and different things, and that was the whole concept. And then at some point I realized, I can talk to anybody that has anything to do with guitars, really. And I was like, that includes musicians I like, doesn't it? And I remember one of the first times anyway, recording with some musicians that I'd been looking up to for forever. With Tom from MXPX, and then got to do it in person with Brian Fallon 10 years ago now. which is crazy. He's been on I don't know how many times at this point, 3-4 times now. But I remember just having those moments and being like, oh, these people that I like really look up to and really appreciate their art, they're not impossible to get a hold of.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy.
Well, the story of the Chuck guitar, it gets even deeper, which now he has two. So when I say the Chuck guitar, I mean the first one I got him.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't let him know what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
So he had zero idea I was building him this guitar. And I spent days upon days looking at everything he ever played, paying attention to what he really liked. And I really noticed that he was playing juniors. So I was like, well, I can take this this design that I have and I'm going to simplify it down. I'm going to get rid of the raised center section that I put in my normal Futura. That's the model of guitar he plays. It's called a Futura 2. And all that comes from my love of cars. So,
boy, we're going to get into cars.
So
all right.
the Futura 2 is like a Nova 2. It's a smaller version of the Nova, you know? So that's what the Futura, and the Futura is actually named after, well, not named after, but designed after a 63 and a half Falcon Futura convertible that my dad owned. And we used to go all over the place in it. So I kept drawing this shape, and I was like, what does this look so familiar to me? And then I realized it's the tail light of a Futura.
I can see
so
it.
I just designed the whole car around that. So, but anyway, I sent something to Chuck saying, hey, I've been a giant fan of yours, and I would like to bring you something. You know, I have a gift that I've made you. And I didn't hear back. And you know, at the time, you're like, God, first thing is I still, to this day, have, like, I'm not quite sure I belong here. You know what I mean?
Imposter syndrome.
Imposter syndrome. Yeah, I feel like I have that, you know. So I was starting to freak out, and I was like, no, you're just going to keep doing this. And I sent a couple things out, and I was like, how am I going to get this thing in? Now it's a week before the show. It was May 15th of 2024. It's a week before the show. And I'm really worried that the place that he's playing, which happened to have been the Masquerade in Atlanta, they're pretty strict on getting stuff in and out. And I was like, well, how am I going to do this? So, I finally got in touch with somebody at the club and was like, yes, we're going to let you get it in no matter what. And I took it to him that day, and there's a video on my YouTube channel that shows the whole thing. The whole thing was videoed. And handed him the guitar, and he's like, well, you did what? And pulled it out of the case, and he's like, oh, man. And I thought, he'll humor me. He may play it a song. And they went on to do their acoustic set. He just kept looking at the guitar and kept smiling at me. And I was like, man, there's a really big chance that this thing gets played one song tonight. And that's beyond my wildest dreams. His tech comes out a little while later and puts the guitar on stage, and I'm about to piss myself. You know, I'm like, oh my God. And I'm 6'4" and about 300 pounds. Okay. So I'm not a little dude. I'm sitting there literally tearing up, crying, going, oh my God. And these dudes are looking at me like, what is this guy's problem? You know, like what's going on with this dude? And Chuck walks out and picks it up, and I'm like, oh, I lose that. I'm just like, oh my God, this is the craziest thing ever. And then proceeds to play it for 21 songs.
Wow.
And at one point he looks at me and he goes, he shouts me out actually. He tunes it the first time and he looks at me and he's like, it's in tune. It's like 6-7 songs in. And then towards the probably 13th song or whatever, he shouts me out and he says, I'm trying to beat the hell out of this thing and it's still in tune. That was just a moment. And everybody yelled, way to go, Randy. And I'm like, that's one of my proudest moments of my entire life. But that was my sink or swim, man. You know, that was my trial by fire. You know, and there was besides the fact that Chuck is a huge influence on me, and I love his band and I love his music. I know how Chuck plays a guitar, and he's not sitting there just, you know, he's gonna play the hell out of it, and that was my point. I'm like, well, if it don't hold up, then it ain't worth it,
right?
And so then I watched that guitar travel, and I'm like, dude, I'm not seeing him playing his other guitars hardly at all. And there was an incident where he has to use a special pickup due to his crazy sweat. And once that happened and I got that right, the second time around, I've not seen him with anything else. And it still feels weird. And with some of these other people that I've gotten stuff to, like, I've always wanted to be a part of this scene somehow, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I was in bands when I first moved here. There's a guitar behind me that belonged to, who's now passed. He was a drummer, but he played guitar in that band, and the band was called Big Fist and the F-U-Ups.
Mm-hmm.
And he played guitar. He was a huge guy. Played guitar. It's upside down. That's like this Sears Sensonics with all the little buttons and stuff, like the cool stuff you used to, when I was a kid. And we worked at a pawn shop, and he bought it for like $5 and played it that night. But he was played it upside down with a giant boxing glove and a guitar pick glued to the boxing glove, because we ended up having to like fight our way out of every single place we ever played. So, you know, that got me into the scene, and I wanted to keep in that, and being in bands for 20-something years. And when my last band kind of broke up because of a drummer dying, and it really just took the wind out of our sails, that was a band called Red Rocket Deluxe, and we had just put out an album, and like it's I know it's mine, but it's great. It's really good. We did a lot of really hard work on it, and then he passes away, and it just fell apart. And I, at that point, was like, you know, I got to find another outlet. So building guitars, how I got into building guitars, but you know, I always kind of wanted to be part of this scene, and recently I'm kind of feeling like maybe I am in a way now, and it's a really cool feeling.
Yeah, it's weird how it works, right? So I mean, the audience knows this probably already, but I came at this from a completely different place. I just wanted to be involved in music, but I knew that touring wasn't for me. I really wasn't into that. Even playing live is not my favorite thing to do. I love recording, and I love writing. I can play live sometimes, but it's not like some people live for that, and that's not really for me. I love watching other people do it. I love live music, but I don't have to be the person on stage necessarily.
Right. Yeah.
But I love music, and I knew that, like, hey, if you're not gonna tour, you're not gonna be in a band. It's not gonna work. Like, that's not, that's not a thing.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of gave up on it. Not in so much that I was going to stop playing music or stop writing or stop recording. It was just like, that's not going to be your thing. You're not going to be a part of the music scene, really. You'll just be kind of a fan, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But I had some sort of bug in me that wouldn't stop. And it was making me kind of miserable in a lot of ways. Because I was in a position where I was in a decent day job and had good people I was working with, and there was really nothing to complain about other than I was there all the time. Like, really, it was a good place. But I didn't like it. And I was fighting. I realized, like, I'm fighting against my very nature to try to make this work for me mentally. All you want to do is be doing music, you know?
Right.
And
I've got 29 years in a local government job, okay? And I'm a supervisor, which means, you know, it's a great job. One of my guys comes into me every day and he says, "You got it made and you don't even know it." And I've recently said, you know what? I do have it made, but I don't even want it.
Right.
I want this. I want what I'm doing right here. For me, having a product, you know, there's tons of blocks of wood laying all around here, and I got really lucky and got a lot of the way I was able to do a lot of stuff, and with hardly a dime to my name was really cool, and I'm still kind of in that situation. But seeing that finished product and knowing every single step that went into that product, and then you watch somebody play it on stage, and you see, I got my fill in building it. They get their fill in having it, and the fans get their fill in hearing it. And so it's just this, it's a beautiful thing, man. And I'm not going to get all sappy, but I have been doing therapy a lot lately. So it's really this thing where and you said, you know, like, I'm not going to necessarily be the touring musician. I'm not going to be that. I'm not going to be that. But the greatest thing about this scene that I'm trying to immerse myself in is, when you're a fan, you are part of that scene, you know. And I don't believe that there's very few bands that I really look up to that don't have that same kind of mindset, you know.
Mm-hmm.
The other night when I dropped the guitar off, we'll get to 5 minutes after Quicksand got done, they're sitting there at their own merch booth talking. You know, Walter Schreifels has been around forever. The man in some sort of way is the god of this scene. He is right there talking to everybody, and he's very respectful and very loving and very caring. And I was in a scene of musicians for a while that was, I'm too cool to talk to you, I'm too cool to, and that really kind of soured my, you know, my taste buds. So that's what I love about this. And honestly, man, I started even just in a strategic thing. Like, there's plenty of guys that are making metal guitars. There's plenty of guys that are making country style looking guitar. There's plenty of guys that are going after these certain things. I want to go after what helped raise me. I want to go into the scene that I really, really care about and really, really love.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I've been, you know, and I've been very lucky right now. I've really only built my first guitar in 2022 probably. Other than I built two Telecasters. I built straight up 2 Telecasters. But other than that, I've built 24 guitars now. Okay. I'm not a seasoned old man. I'm an old man, but I'm not seasoned. But out of those, 5 of them are touring the world right now.
That's cool.
And that's a pretty good percentage, man.
It is.
The second guitar that I ever built, I built right here in this shop before I even had walls in the shop and stuff. It was still just a garage. And it was a T-style, and I built it and put it together and played it. And, you know, I worked for a guy who was apprenticing me, and it was a repair shop. And I really, really wanted to just build guitars. I showed up, and I'm like, I brought all this wood. Let's build a guitar. And he's like, no, you're not ready to do that. Here, do a setup. Here, do this. Here, do that. And I just kept, I just want to build a guitar. I just want to. And so he let me put a body together, and it was crappy and whatever. And I didn't even cut it out. I glued the body together. I was like, God, there's gaps all here in this. And I need to, you know, my dad was a woodworker, so I kind of thought like I know a little bit more, but I didn't. And then he told me one day, he said, and he was even younger than me. So it's not like this old dude with this crazy wild, you know, wisdom, but he was like, you never want to build a guitar-shaped object. And I really took that to heart, man. Like, and then a couple days later, some guy comes in and he's like, I need y'all to fix this. I built it. And it's the United States, the body shaped like the United States, and it's got some sort of neck sticking off of it. And the neck is this high off the body.
Oh, no.
And there's absolutely zero way I can get this thing to intonate, to stay in tune, to set up. The pickups were, even when they were raised on risers, they were this far away from the strings.
Whoa.
Like it was just horrible. And that was like, oh, okay. So I really just spent my time on, when I was with him, learning guitar repair, which I believe that anybody who wants to get into this game at all, you learn repair. You don't know what to do right when you don't know what's wrong. Mm-hmm. And you start looking at, I mean, I have, when I was playing, before I was building, the Gibson Les Paul was my dream. And when I finally got one, I'm like, oh my God. And then I actually met Mr. Les Paul and, you know, got to shake his hand, and he grabbed my ex-wife's butt. Like, you know, so whatever. There was nothing there. I don't know how he did that, but he did it anyway.
It's Les. He's magical.
Oh, he was a little bit of a flirty old man, let me tell you. He was really cool to talk to.
I've never heard this side of it before. Wow.
Oh, you got to find, you know, he had I cannot recall her name right now, but she was a stand-up bass player that played in his band. And they played at the Iridium. Mm-hmm. And Les would sit behind her. So she was up front. And he would say in the thing, everybody asks why I'm always sitting beside her, but if you are behind her, but if you saw what I'm seeing right now, you would too. And she would just laugh and giggle it off for it. But yeah, he was a little bit of a flirt.
So. He might have gotten in trouble these days. Yeah.
Oh yeah, nowadays he probably couldn't have got away with it, right? But I'm 53. I'm sure I could say the same thing. So, but you know, I learned, like, why do these headstocks of this certain brand keep breaking off? Why is this happening? Why is, you know, what do people dislike about their whatever style guitar it may be. And how can I do that in my designs to kind of help eliminate some of those problems? And so I've had a lot of really great things said and compliments, and I'm really looking for, like, please tell me what's wrong. I want to know. But the other day, Walter Schreifel's tech, a really good guy named Patrick, told me, he's like, man, I feel like you built this guitar with me in mind, because I feel like it's bulletproof. There's nothing, as long as I keep strings on it and keep the little things done, it's going to be. And that was probably one of the best compliments I've heard in forever. Like, that was a really cool thing, because I've been kind of not a touring tech, but I've been a repair guy who understands what it's like to get a turd. Yeah, you know. Mm-hmm. So that was a really cool thing to hear.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting because, like, some people will say building and repair are like very different skill sets, and I can kind of see how they arrive to that mindset. But repair is interesting because it's gonna show you a bunch of stuff you never would see otherwise, right? Like, you're gonna have things come through your door and be like, "What? Why? How did this happen?" And now you want me to do something about it?
Yes,
right.
Yes. And the shop that I worked for, like, I walked in the second day that he was open, and he had 3 guitars on his wall, and they were all stuff that he had built, and I knew him from playing. He was in a band, and we played some shows together and stuff. So I went in, begged for a job. I was like, look, I'll clean your toilets. I'll do whatever the hell I have to do. And this place was about an hour and 15 minutes away. And at the time, I was still trying to be a touring musician. So I had a big 96 Econoline van. And, that would cost me $100 a day to drive over there.
Oh, yeah.
But, he had so much cool stuff. Within a matter of a year, this shop was getting 56 Stratocasters, and I got called in one day on a Sunday because there was 3 guitars that had to be fixed, and he wasn't going to be there. And I opened up the case, and one of them is a 58 Les Paul, and the other one is a 60 Telecaster. Mm-hmm. And I'm sitting there going, whoa, and 58 Les Paul it originally had P90, so it had the wings for the humbuckers. They were falling apart. I had to do a bunch of stuff. And I was freaked out, man. I was like, oh, my God, this guitar's worth more than my house. Mm-hmm. And what do you do? And then you realize, like, you fix it like you would fix the Ibanez that's right behind it. And when you are working on a $50,000, $60,000 guitar, you don't get so freaked out about that $100 piece of wood you may have just messed up. You know what I mean?
Yep, that makes sense. I mean, it's funny with guitars like that. It makes no sense to a lot of people. Like, why is this guitar this much money? We're working on a project for Gun Street Wiring here in Portland, and we're doing a thing with Thunder Road. And one of my parts of the job was I had to take this 1962 ES345 home and get a bunch of samples. And my wife was with me when we went and picked it up, and I was like, "Hey, we're coming from North Portland, and we're gonna go home. If we have to stop anywhere in between, one of us is sitting in the car."
Yeah.
And she's like, "Why?" I'm like, "'Cause it's worth more than the car."
Yeah.
Like, that's like this. It's. She's like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah, we're not leaving. This is not leaving our site ever. Like, this is how this is gonna work." And she was like, "Why are some guitars worth that?" And I'm like, "Well, if you want to be practical about it, no piece of wood's worth that.
No,
that's not what it is, though. It's not. It's something else."
And really, the 50s stuff is so coveted, but if we really break it down, it's like, why did it get coveted in the first place? Because the stuff that the artists were getting in the late 60s and 70s sucked. So they started buying up the older stuff, and then guys with money said, well, I got to have what he has, and that created that big giant crave,
And now all of the musicians that we liked that couldn't afford that stuff was playing Norland-era Gibsons and CBS Strats and Ibanez clones, and now those are expensive because that's what we want.
Right. And I have played many of Greco's and Ibanez stuff that would blow an original one away all day long, and you could still pick them up for, they're expensive now, but they're nowhere near that much. So, that's another thing is like, actually being able to get my hands on some of these really old. I was we had a guy come in the shop one day, and he brought I believe it was a 60 or it may have been a 61 Jaguar. And it was beat to hell and back. And he was telling us this story. And he was a guitar player for Big Joe Tex. Are you familiar with that?
That sounds familiar. I think I am.
I was not familiar. So Big Joe Tex was, he was doing James Brown stuff before James Brown. Mm-hmm. All right. So this guy's name was Leroy Hadley. And there's a Big Joe Tex song called Big Leg Woman.
I know this song.
And it said Leroy wants her. And so this was Leroy, right?
Okay, got it.
So I'm holding this guitar. He's asking me if I knew about the Chitlin circuit and stuff. And I'm like, I got a little bit of knowledge, but I'd love to hear what you got to tell me. And he's telling me all these stories. And then he says, so he was touring with Big Joe Tex and Otis Redding. Mm-hmm. And Otis's guitar player had an emergency and had to leave. So he's playing both gigs. So I was like, oh, so this thing played sitting on the dock of the bay a bunch of times and all that. And he's like, yeah, and all this stuff. But he's telling me about how they were in a hotel in Chattanooga, and Little Richard happened to be there. And so he said, Little Richard's guitar player played this thing. He played it upside down and played some of the craziest stuff I've ever heard in my life. And I'm like, dude, you're talking about Jimmy.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah. So I'm holding a guitar.
Yeah, Little Richard's guitar player.
That Jimi Hendrix played. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, so I just to have those kind of experiences, and know what does a guitar that all these guys covet, these old guitars that are, well, why? And what is it that they feel like? And I try to, like when I shape a neck, man, I don't use any sort of template. I have I've got my measurements. I've got a pretty rough idea. I ask the customer, do you like chunky? What do you like? And then from there, it's all in that big giant mitt right there. Mm-hmm. And I'm just trying to make sure it feels like some of those really cool, beautiful guitars that I got my hands on. And when it does, then I know it's good.
Well, and that's the other thing, right? Not all of those were super consistent either.
No, they weren't.
No.
And we had several of them come in the shop that was like, look at this. This thing look at this telly. It's gorgeous. There's not a scratch. Well, there's a reason why. I always tell somebody, if you see a vintage guitar that's in perfect shape, it's a turd. It was kept under a bed because it wasn't any good,
Sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, every now and then you get lucky, but most of the time, the real good ones, the ones that sounded great and stuff, were used for what they're for, which is to play the hell out of. I tell people I don't build furniture. Like, I love fancy woods and stuff, but ultimately I'm not building furniture. I'm building a musical tool, and I want it to be played the hell out of. Mm-hmm. Like with cars, there's no way I'd ever want a hot rod that is so nice that I have to trailer it everywhere. That's the stupidest thing in the world to me. Mm-hmm. And that's how I feel about guitars too. Yeah,
it's funny because I've gotten to play some crazy guitars through doing this, and I can't even believe this story still freaks me out in retrospect, but it's cool. I got to go in the Gibson vault with Mark, and they take people in there all the time. It's not like, ooh, look how special you are. Like, they take folks in there. But what I wasn't expecting when I go in there, I'm like, oh, wow, look at all these crazy, like the rarest of the rare Gibsons, right? And he pulls out this Explorer and hands it to me. I didn't know the case just opened up. Like, we're inside of a safe, and then the display case has a glass wall on it. He just opened it up. I don't know if there's a trick to it or some code that he put in or whatever, but he opened it up and hands it to me. I'm like, oh, sweet, I'm going to play this Carina Explorer. And I know these are super rare, but not really thinking about it. So I'm playing it a little bit, just some cowboy chords, simple stuff. And I hand it back to him, and, he's telling me the stories of each one. And I'm like, that Explorer, like, what did you guys have to pay for that Explorer? And he was like, oh, $1.2 million. I was like, I'm sure glad you told me that after I was done playing it.
Right. Yeah.
Because I'd have to liquidate my everything and me and probably my children.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And I don't even know if we'd get close.
Same here.
Yeah.
It is crazy how much some of that stuff is worth. And then, some stuff that is just incredibly good stuff is just like, nobody cares about it. Like, well, that's kind of weird,
I know. One of my favorite guitars is I got this 65 double cut Melody Maker with 2 pickups. Nobody cares about that. Like, you can get them relatively cheap all day long. The double pickup's
Yep.
a little more rare, but they're out there. That thing rips.
Yeah,
It's
and that's all that
incredible.
that's all that matters, So,
Mm-hmm.
but doing all that, having all the experience with a lot of these older guitars and a lot of these really nice guitars, and doing this repair and stuff, really helped me out. Again, I said that you never want to build a guitar-shaped object. Well, the second guitar I ever built was a Telecaster. It's got a green flowered fabric top body on it. And after I built it, I looked at it for a while, and I'm like, okay, cool, I built a Telecaster. That's not what I want to do. So I cut the headstock off and made my own headstock. And that is the guitar that I designed the headstock on that I'm still using, that I use today. I make one headstock. It's a 6-in-line, and you can either have it reversed or not. And that's, it's the same on all 3/4 of my models. And so that guitar yesterday, today's Thursday, Tuesday was played at Madison Square Garden.
Nice.
So that was not a guitar-shaped object either. So I've been very. I don't say that I know what I'm doing. I've said several times, like, I probably have no business doing what I'm doing at all. But it's working out, and I've yet to build a guitar-shaped object.
That's good. That's good. Yeah. It's a interesting thing. They're not that complicated, really, at the end of the day, versus a car. There's just not that much to them, but yet so much can go wrong. and just ruin the whole experience. If one thing's out of whack, it's toast.
I got some weird little things that I do. Like when I was listening to, so that first guitar I gave Chuck, inside of all the laminates and stuff, there's his lyrics.
Oh,
and
cool.
There's things that are very important to me that were, his lyrics and stuff. And then I glue it all together. But as I was building that guitar, I listened to nothing but hot water music.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I put that into every single thing I was doing. All the hours of sanding, I'm sanding to a rhythm of a hot water music song, just stuff like that, just because I feel like it reminds me of what inspired me in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So I try to put that into each guitar, because there is some weird magic mojo in all this stuff.
I think so.
Yeah, there's something that I'm not going to pretend I know why, but I seem to have tapped into. Again, I handed Chuck that guitar. He never touched it. He didn't know a thing about it. And for him to play 21 songs and act like he'd been playing it his entire life and not look uncomfortable. We've all seen the look of somebody that picks up a guitar that they hear is supposed to be great or whatever, and they just don't jive with it, and they got that look like, man, get me the hell off this thing. You know what I mean? And to not see that was like, it brought tears to my eyes that night.
Yeah.
And I have been extremely lucky, or it's the mojo that we're talking about that is, that has got me into those positions 3 times now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a weird thing. I can be completely logical about some of this stuff, and I've seen, the scientific explanations for some of this stuff on why this matters or this doesn't matter, and I've participated in making a lot of different aspects of the instrument at this point, and I'm like, yeah, I see that it's just a magnet with some wire around it. I see that.
Yeah.
But it's not that. There's the sum total of everything matters a lot.
That's what I say constantly. People ask me, what's your take on tone wood? What's your take on this? What's your take on that? I don't necessarily believe in the whole tone is from the wood on an acoustic guitar, on an electric guitar. There's so many other variables. But I can tell you that if I use a crap piece of wood, it's not going to be good. So it's the sum of its parts make up way more than each one little thing. And again, why can you take the same 4 pieces of wood out of the same tree, cut them, glue them together, and make 2 guitars, and they sound different?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, but they do.
But they do, yeah.
Right. Yeah. So
it's the same thing. I'm constantly talking to, I got a new role in my own company, which is weird, but I'm constantly talking to retailers now, and some of the newer ones are like, well, what's different about Stringjoy strings? Why? And I'm like, man, I can't sit here and be like, well, we put the fairy dust in these ones, and that's
Right.
how it is. No,
Right.
we took and looked at 100 different things that we were doing and changed them until we were happy with it. And I can't sit here and explain to you like why the angle of the wrap wire on this needs to be this versus that. Your eyes are gonna glaze over, and
Right.
it's not gonna matter ultimately. But just know that we worried about all that stuff so that you didn't have to. You know, like, and the result is it performs the way we want it to perform. But it isn't like, hey, we use this tone wire. We got the
Right.
tone wire right. Like, the wire matters. Your materials do matter.
Yes.
But how it's made is what really matters ultimately.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Again, so you want to get all like hippy dippy, and you could say, well, the attitudes of your employees matters to your product, because ultimately it kind of does in a way, And whether they're having a bad day, I mean, we've all picked up that guitar that somebody either built on a Friday or on a day before they were about to get fired. You know what I mean? It's just like, this thing it's a guitar shaped object with a logo stuck on the end of it. And so you can't really explain exactly what it is, but when you can, I just know, and I promise you that if you'll try, you'll know too after a while. And it's kind of hard to convince people of that, but sometimes you get lucky.
And then there's the opposite side of the coin. That's like this is why people are so weird. Where it's like you pick up a guitar and you're like, nah, this is not it. And your buddy picks up the same guitar and you're like, wow, he sounds great with that.
Yeah, it's the greatest thing ever. Yeah, right.
Like what? Okay, sure.
Yeah,
it's so weird.
When I was playing guitar more, I used to get really frustrated with first thing when I was a kid, I wanted to be Eddie Van Halen. I just wanted to be able to do that, and I thought I was never going to be able to be in a band until I could, rip these crazy fast solos and do all this stuff. Then I found punk rock. But one thing I realized about playing guitar is you're never going to master it.
No.
Even when you think you've mastered it. Now just tune some strings different. And guess what? It's a whole different instrument. And I kind of feel the same way about building. Like I'm never going to master it. There's always going to be something that's going to throw me for a loop. That's going to do this and make me. And ultimately, that's what I'm in it for, man. Some of my mistakes have been the greatest thing ever to happen on some of the guitars that I've built. And I really, they're happy accidents,
Well, what are some of those?
Well, one of the first guitars I ever made, I was using the router table, and I was very new to the router table, and I was doing a nice cutting the edge. Had my template, doing everything, running it through, and the bit took it and shot it across this room, and it hit the wall in front of where I'm standing right now, and took a nice chunk out of that body, and I went, well, that's going to be a contour curve now. So I contoured it all out and made it look like. And then there was another place where same guitar actually. It was only the second guitar ever, or third guitar. I drilled my through holes wrong. I drilled them in the wrong spot. I don't know what I was doing, but I did. So I was like, well, I've got this cover plate for a Les Paul Jr. And I've got the route that fits it in perfect because I got this beautiful Les Paul Jr. Template set. So if I cut out where I did that, and then I take a bunch of crazy wood and make it look like a mosaic, and then I cut it out with using the cover, it's going to fit in there beautifully. And every time anybody looks at that guitar, they're like, "Oh my God, that is so incredible! That's great work!" And I'm just over there going,
well, I did that on purpose.
Yeah. Too bad you can't see, a half inch under that where there's like random holes there. Yeah, right. So those are some of the things that really kind of they make you think. And again, that's from that repair. You don't freak out when you have a paint repair or anything. You're like, okay, well, I've done this before. I know that I have decent enough skills to make this right. And that's what I'm going to do, So those have all been things that I was on a little forum the other day, and this guy was saying, "Man, making necks sucks." And I'm like, "Man, you're thinking about this wrong. I'm sorry, but the neck is everything. The neck is what you're feeling. It's your interface, man. Like you've ruined a neck, so you'll ruin 15 more. I've got one right beside me that was on a guitar that should have been finished that I was shipping out to France. That's the first guitar I ever sold, was going to France. And in the scraping process and everything else, I basically destroyed this neck. And it's a beautiful piece of flame maple, roasted flame maple, and it's got a big note across it that said, "Don't F up next time." I mean, so I was like, quit, like you're freaking out because you made a mistake, but you got to understand those mistakes are your lessons.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I'm still new to this game, man. So I'm excited to, be able to really, really dive in soon and just go for it full bore. And who knows what kind of mistakes I'm going to end up with, but that's what teaches you.
Yeah. Oh, that's the thing is I had a guy the other day, asked me, we were talking about work stuff, and I do a bunch of weird things for a job now, and so he was like, "Where did you learn all this?" And I was like, well, I graduated high school, and then I was a mechanic, and then I worked in the oil industry, and now I'm doing this. And he's like, "So you didn't go to school for business or anything of this?" I'm like, no. I've got a couple of people that work for me that did, but it's something you learn by doing, I think, more than anything else. And that seems like an old kind of hillbilly way to look at it, like, oh, you just got to get in there and find out. But really, that's the truth. If you've never done it before, I mean, don't get me wrong, having education in what some of these terms mean and like understanding numbers and stuff goes a long way. And you can learn a lot of lessons the easier way that way. But it's still not a substitute for actually getting in and running into a problem. And I'm talking about kind of outside of the product itself. Mm-hmm. There's a whole different world that I didn't know that I needed to know. I had no idea. I'm like, ask me 10 years ago, like, do you do net 30 terms? Huh? What are you talking about? I'm not a credit card. Right. It's like, and that's a simple, basic thing that I didn't understand or know. Right. And I'm learning more of that stuff all the time. And it's like, how did I learn about business? It's like, well, I'm still learning, and I'm never going to know everything there is to know about it. But you got to learn to love that side of it, or it makes it impossible to do the craft side of it.
Yeah, I've got two little things about that. Like, when I was younger, my dad used to, he was what they call plant operations director for colleges. Mm-hmm. My dad never went to a college a day in his life other than to go to work. And, so he's basically the manager of all the buildings and all this other kind of stuff. So everything kind of goes through him, works with everybody at the college. And no school, hard knocks, being a dad all his life, that kind of stuff. And he would have these engineers, and they would work on this big giant job, and they would be sitting there figuring out, well, how can we do this, and what about this, and what about this? And they'd sit there for hours and hours, and my dad would walk up with a little sketch on a piece of paper and go, "You can do it like that right there." And they'd be like, "How did you think of that?" He's like, "Because I've done it 50 times. Mm-hmm. And they're like, "And it worked?" And he's like, "Yes, I've done it 50 times. So I just told you, And so again, you've got the guys who got all the business smarts and the street smart, I should say the book smarts in the world, but it's the street smart guy that can walk up and go, "It needs some gas." It's just like that. That's all it is. And I've been very lucky to have a good friend of mine who I don't know if on my YouTube channel and on the podcast that I do sometimes, he's my partner there, and he's been really my business mentor. And that has helped me out tremendously. Like 5 guitars went to him off the rip. He bought 5 guitars in a row, and that was really cool to have. And that kind of thing's been really nice. But yeah, it's great to have the knowledge from the book, but sometimes the road teaches you everything.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you need it. I think you need it all. Like, I'm lucky that my business partner reads a lot of books, and by osmosis, I get to absorb some of that information because he's really, really, Scott is one of the most clever guys that I've ever met in my life, which is why I wanted to work with him. And I've learned so much and continue to learn a lot from that dude all the time. And it's, it's just it's a bunch of stuff that I didn't think, I was like, I got into this because I wanted to do music stuff, but I'm like, this actually all is pretty interesting when you break it down. Like, it's what I tell a lot of people that are starting out is like, you kind of got to learn to love that side of it, or it's going to be real tough to do the other side that you fell in love with already. So,
right. Yeah, that's good advice. I'm learning. It's just like I'm a 53-year-old man, so doing social media and Instagram and stuff is not like second nature to me. So I'm having to really kind of learn to love that. And one of the things I've realized lately is let's just be me and show people who I am, tell people my story, show my guitars, but let's not hate this. Let's learn to love this. Let's lean into it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, it's why we're talking today, right?
Yeah.
Like, I saw a social media post from an artist that I like, and I was like, whoa, this is kind of cool. What's this? And I started following you, and then I thought, I saw a couple more things, and it was like, yeah, sometimes you just need that exposure to find. I mean, you got to think about, too, like, and I complain about social media all the time. As a guy who owes his entire career to social media, I still complain about it all the time. It does more, I think it's an easy whipping post, right? It's easy to be like, social media is all bad. But really, for me and so many other people I know, we wouldn't have what we have without it. And it's not necessarily some magic of the computer. It's just the fact that all these like-minded people can get together and find each other now. Whereas before, I wouldn't be able to talk to you in Georgia. I wouldn't have known. I wouldn't have had any idea. Maybe if I happened to be traveling through Georgia, I saw your guitar on a wall at a shop somewhere, maybe eventually we would find each other, but probably not. Right? So there's a lot of good stuff to it too, and I'm not trying to say, oh King Zuckerberg, I love you so much. I'm just saying there is truly some valuable connections that come out of it, and it's more than I think people actually give credit to, because it's always easier to focus on the negative.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of what I'm trying to say there is, like, I'm trying to lean into those connections a lot more, and trying to be my 100% me, not trying to put on I'm the business owner and I'm doing this and, whatever. Like, hey, this is me. This is what I do. I hope you like it. If so, let's chat. Like, I do these lives all the time, and I'm begging people, like, please, God, talk to me. Like, otherwise, I'm just looking at myself on this camera going, well, now what? Like, would I be bored as hell if I was watching this? So I'm really trying to get into that stuff, and just, again, this goes right back to what Chuck Ragan and hot water music and Quicksand and the Flatliners and all those guys have a way with connecting with their audience that is genuine. It's not I'm up on this stage and you're down there and I'm your God now and that kind of stuff. It is a full-on genuine experience. It is a full-on. I mean, I used to say that the first hot water music shows I went to were like church, man. That was a religious experience, So it's kind of leaning into that and learning how to be okay and not be the guy going, well, if I do that, people are going to think I'm not cool, or, whatever. So I'm learning how to be that,
Yeah. Well, it's cliche, and some people lean into this too hard the other way and just become jerks. But the fact of the matter is, like, I try to do the same thing you're talking about. I try to just be me. I try to post stuff that I think is funny, even if it's stupid or like informative, or I just try to make stuff that I would want to see on my feed. That's kind of what I try to do for the most part.
Yeah.
And I don't think I've been doing this for a long time, and I don't think I've intentionally ever like hurt anybody's feelings, even though I've had some opinions, but I never try to like hurt anybody. But I still get haters. People still will hate at some point, and I had to I used to have a tough time with that. It used to bother me a lot, and now it's like 9 times out of 10, it's water off a duck's back. I'm just like, I guess I'm doing something right. You know, I'm not trying to be abrasive intentionally or bother anybody. I'm just trying to be me. And I guess some people aren't going to like that. And some people are going to accuse me of being AI. And some people are going to say all kinds of things. And it's like, I don't know. I'm just doing what I've always done. And I'm going to keep trying to do it as long as I can. You just got to lean into it at some point. You're right.
So the day after, we keep going back to this Chuck Ragan guitar, but it really is a kind of a turning point for me. Mm-hmm. The day after I gave him that guitar, I had I'm on this little, like Luthier's Helping Luthier's page or whatever, and this guy was asking like how would he go about like thinning out a neck some, and he just wants to take it down a little bit. This guy, and I said I would use a Shinto rasp, and somebody jumped on there and just completely obliterated me, saying I'm dumb as hell. I have no idea what I'm doing. Blah 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 blah. All this kind of stuff. There's no way you can do fine detail with a Shinto rasp. And so I sat there and I was really kind of getting upset about it. So instead, I just posted a picture of Chuck playing my guitar and said, "I did it on this one." And I wasn't trying to be a jerk, but I did that on that. And yes, it does. You can't do that if you're doing this, but I hold the Shinto rasp like this, and I literally turn my neck like this. Mm-hmm. I do some weird stuff, and it works for me. So I've had to kind of learn how to just not buy into that negativity. Unfortunately, I was a very self-doubting negative person for most of my life. Mm-hmm. I wonder why I didn't do this when I was in my 20s, and I blame it on this, that, and the other. But the truth of the matter is I wasn't the right person then. Mm-hmm. I wasn't the person that was going to be able to do what I'm doing right now. I would have doubted myself so much I'd have never finished the first guitar, much less what I've gotten done now. So, I just don't buy into that stuff. It's like, okay, that's how you feel, cool. But other people like it, and I like it. And, I try to think of that the same way as like musicians who are really, they say, we write for ourselves, not for you. And hopefully you like it. I'm trying to kind of follow that. Mm-hmm.
Well, no, that was a big thing for me. And I've had various degrees of imposter syndrome and will continue to do so for a long time. I don't think it'll ever really fully go away depending on the circumstance. But one thing that really helped is, and I imagine you experience this too, is when you finally do get to meet some of these people or do things with them or whatever, and you're like, well, that is just a dude.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm just a dude, so maybe I can do some cool stuff too.
Right. Yeah. And I've done some of the, we've lived very parallel. After I got Chuck his guitar, I got a call from Chris Cresswell. And he said, "Hey, man, I like that Space Dolphin thing you make. Why don't we do one of those?" And I was like, all right, let's talk about pricing and that kind of stuff. And, so we worked together, where on that one, I worked with him like I would a normal client, where we really kind of bounce ideas off of each other. And we, I already kind of knew what he wanted because of the way he plays. But normally when I'm with a client, we have like an hour conversation. So I really get to know who you are. And upon several months of talking with Cresswell, I just like, man, I don't know if I'm supposed to be doing this at all. And he's like, "Hey, man, I still get imposter syndrome. Mm-hmm. So you are not telling me anything that I don't know, or you're not telling me anything that people like me don't have. It's okay. You got to get over that." And he was really very helpful in that, Mm-hmm. And then taking that guitar down to Fest, and I see Chuck again, and he's like, "Let's go have a beer." And I'm like, "Oh my God. Yeah, mm-hmm. Yeah, okay." Mm-hmm. And then he's like, "Hey, man," and he proceeds to tell me, like, there could have been a very different outcome to this story had that guitar sucked. Right. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I'm not going to say exactly what he said, but there's a whole nother story. And so I was like, "So what you're telling me is I already had some chips stacked against me?" And he's like, "Most certainly." Mm-hmm. And he's like, "So you got to let some of that stuff go. You got it." And I was like, "Man, thank you so much." And, just last week I took a guitar to Walter freaking Schreifels, for God's sakes, mm-hmm. And I'm backstage watching him try on this guitar, and he's like, "Does it look cool on me?" And I'm like, "Dude, you were Walter effing Schreifels." And he's mm-hmm. like, yeah, but you got to maximize that shit. And I was like, he is really, really, really on to something here, and I need to listen to this dude. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it's been very, very, some people tell you to not you should never meet your heroes. But my story to that is if you meet your heroes and he's a piece of crap, then maybe he shouldn't have been your hero in the first place. Maybe you got the wrong heroes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've had, knock on wood, I've had nothing but great luck meeting my heroes so far. I'm sure that'll change at some point if I get to continue meeting people I like, but so far so good, Yeah.
Yeah. And
no complaints.
And that's the thing. Like, I just want to, I want to, am I going to build guitars for, blues lawyers? Probably. And that's okay. They deserve a nice guitar just as much as anybody else. But I really just want to build things for people that I admire, that I am, part of the whole thing. Like, that's what I'm really concentrating on. And so far it's been great,
That's going to send me on a slight tangent.
Sure.
So, blues lawyers, rock dentists,
right.
R&B orthodontists, whatever you want to call them, these people are the reason we get to have an industry.
Most certainly.
The enthusiasts.
Right.
The enthusiasts are the reason we get to have a guitar business. If we only served the highest levels of, musician as far as economics go, there would be no mom and pop guitar shops. There would be no repair businesses, no small custom builders. Mm-hmm. There would be none of this stuff. The reason we get to have this amazing plethora of instruments and things to pick from are because of the enthusiasts. I'm not just talking about the wealthy ones either. I'm talking about anybody who just plays to play, and that's 99% of people who pick up a guitar.
Right.
That we as an industry owe all of those people a huge debt of gratitude, and I am and I've been guilty of it too. I'm not teasing blues lawyers anymore because they give me a job.
Sure. Yeah. No. Exactly. And they get a bad rap, but if you play guitar, you're a musician.
Uh-huh.
And whether or not you've been lucky enough, or whether or not it was in your cards to be a pro touring musician, or whether or not you play guitar for your 3-year-old daughter because she likes it, or whether, none of that matters. Everybody deserves the same amount of respect. And unfortunately, I used to really poo-poo on cover bands. Mm-hmm. I was I always wrote my own music and all this stuff, and I used to talk so much trash. Man, those guys they work hard. Those dudes deserve respect, or those folks, not dudes, but mm-hmm. they all deserve respect, because that's not an easy gig either. It's like,
hard.
You just play somebody else's music. Yeah, but you play somebody else's music for 3.5 hours a night, where I get on stage and play 40 minutes and walk off. So I think we all kind of can look that way. The blues lawyer thing was, these guitars are only worth this much money because of these guys. Eventually, it would have got to that anyway. Those are just the guys that happen to have the money to pay for them right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So exactly. No, I'm for it. I'm for anybody who wants to come and support this industry, because it's not an easy industry to make a living in, and people who spend their hard-earned money from other mm-hmm. industries on this one are why we get to exist.
Yeah. I just finished a guitar a couple days ago for a coworker. Well, a couple months ago, for a coworker who bought it for his son's graduation gift. Sick.
That's amazing.
Now, his kid had 2 or 3 guitars. Kid used to come over here. He actually helped me a few times. I've kind of brought him in and showed him how to take care of some of his own stuff. I'm not trying to bleed people dry, So, but he kept saying, "Man, I want one of those Space Dolphins. I want one of those Space Dolphins." His dad came up to me and was like, "Hey, what's it going to cost?" And I told him it's $2,700, whatever it was for that model. Once we spec'd it all out, and he said, "Okay, that kid deserves that guitar just as much as anybody else."
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think it's a classic thing to be like, "Oh, your dad bought you that." Blah blah blah. Like, yeah. Wouldn't you want your dad to have bought you one?
I would have. Yeah. Of course.
My mom and dad bought me a really awesome guitar, and it's part of the reason we're talking today. Like, I'm not mad. Like, why am I going to be mad at somebody who got something cool?
Yeah.
Not
Pops
gonna.
had to throw, mine threw in on a Series 10 Strat and a Crate G10.
Yeah, exactly.
So, whatever it takes.
Well, Randy, we are approaching the end of the main episode, so before we slide over to Patreon, I have a couple classic questions I'd like to wrap these up on. But before I do, I like to give the guests a chance to take the stage. Plug anything you want to plug, shout out anybody you want to shout out. You're talking to a few thousand people right now, so let them know whatever you want to let them know.
Awesome. Well, again, I'm Randy from King Electric Guitars. I build guitars for people who really want to find something that they just can't walk into a store and pick up. If anybody wants to chat about that, feel free to reach out. Just because we're chatting doesn't mean I'm trying to grab money out of your hand. So, you can reach me on Instagram. You can reach me on at kingelectricguitars.com. Any of the social media. I really like to meet and create relationships with people. And if that happens to mean you end up with one of my guitars, great. But if you just want to chat, that's cool too. So
awesome. All right, Randy. First question. What is your favorite Boss pedal?
I'm sorry, favorite what?
Boss pedal.
Oh, favorite Boss pedal.
Mm-hmm.
TU2.
Most popular answer.
Mine is covered in about 16 years of beer.
And it still works, right?
And it still works. That's why I love it. That's probably the only one I own right now. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. TU2, most popular answer by far. So Boss has sold a lot of TU2s.
Hey, man. You go look at any tech's board, he's going to have 3 or 4 pedals, and one of them's going to be a TU2.
Almost guaranteed. Yep. All right, final question. What is your favorite kind of pizza?
Thin crust. And I don't have a necessary favorite, but it's got to have some meat on it.
Mm-hmm.
Preferably sausage and pepperoni.
Mm-hmm.
Anything. I'm not a fan of the pineapple.
Yeah, me either.
So I'd say a thin crust meat or Supreme style pizza, or a really good taco pizza.
Taco pizzas are an interesting one.
Taco pizzas, man. So Sunday I have my apprentice come by, and I buy a $3 taco pizza from this little store down the road, and we eat that because it's not good, but it is good. You know what I mean? It's like it's enough to fill us both up with these little cheap pizzas, and it's like eating a cracker. Like the crust is but it's kind of cool. It's pretty good for a $3 pizza.
There's some room in life for that. I like bougie stuff sometimes, but sometimes you need a $3 pizza.
I am a huge fan of authentic tacos. Like, I love authentic tacos, and I'm very, very much a stickler. But sometimes a gringo taco hits the spot.
I know it. Yeah, the hard shell ground beef. It's
just as white as we can make it. Let's do it up.
It's like
the cheese and stuff that you don't normally have. Yes.
Yeah. Sometimes it really does hit, and I'm with you. I like the authentic stuff. I seek it out.
Mm-hmm.
But when my wife's like, "Hey, we're having gringo tacos," am I mad about it? Absolutely not. I'm like, "Oh yes, let's go."
Yep.
Let's get the square bottom, stand-up shell, like really load these things up.
I miss the days of my mom actually frying the taco shells up, and they look like these big, like this. And we had taco night. That was the one cool thing we used to do as a family.
Yeah, love taco night. It's good stuff.
Yeah.
Well, Randy, thank you for hanging out for the time. I really appreciate it, and we'll slide over to Patreon and see what kind of nonsense we can get into if that works for you.
Sounds good. It's been a pleasure. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Yes. All right, everybody, for Randy, this is Blake, and as always, folks, good luck and good tones. Alrighty, folks, I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did, and if you would like more, you know where to get it, baby. Go over to patreon.com/tonemob, where for just $5 a month, you can get access to the ad-free versions of every single episode, and the extra special bonus conversations that I have with the guests over there, including this one with Randy King, where we get kind of heavy, actually. We start off talking cars and end up talking feels. Yeah, 2 grown men just slicing it up. And I think you're going to like it. So If you could do that, that would mean the world. Also, don't forget, if you need more content from yours truly, I do 2 other podcasts every week. I'm on the Chasing Tone podcast with my friend Richard Oliver and my other friend Brian Wampler. Yeah, Brian Wampler, that guy. And also, I do Tape Spaghetti. Tape Spaghetti is the podcast where Scott Marquardt and I dive into the weird side of music. We talk about strange musical tales and weird things that happen in music and just interesting stories. This week, we're talking about the rather sad and tragic tale of Marvin Gaye, one of the greatest artists of the 20th century and also one of the saddest tales of the 20th century. We get into that one. So if you like interesting musical tales, Tape Spaghetti wherever you're getting this podcast. All right, folks. Again, I'm in Chicago this week, so if you see me wandering around, do say hi. It's my first time in the city. All right, folks. Thank you so much. Love you. Take care of each other.